Hey. Thanks, Lawrence. This is another two-man show as with the last session. So so I'll move dig on to the actual technology part of whatever so this topic is about, right? Internet of Things, and what does IBM offer on this Internet of Things? So if you see, there is a lot of, okay, I think guys are able to hear me, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of hype around IoT, right? So there is a lot of people saying about IoT, and what are the actual business things that be driven out of IoT. So there's a lot of hype, and now a lot of industries are taking IoT very seriously, right? So, and IoT is all about data. I think there was a very good session about data science, right? And of course, with all this whole, each of the sensors emitting data, there will be like petabytes of data, and the main thing is not petabytes of data. What is the knowledge that you gain out of it, right? So that is where the whole analytics comes into picture, where how can you analyze all the data that you get from all these devices, right? So IoT, as slide, IoT value can be realized in areas. The first and foremost is, of course, the data itself. So where do you get the data is on the devices. So when I say devices, it could be the small devices that is actually instrumented in this whole room, right? Like sensors, like what is the temperature sensor, but more importantly, what are the sensors that are running in your industries? Like it could be from flow meters and all this stuff, right? So you're getting all this data from varied source of data, and what can you do with that? So starting foremost is with your devices and the network. So this is where you get and connecting to things that matters, right? And how do you get all this data? And then you have a platform. So that is where like companies like IBM come into picture to where to say like how do you get connected with all these devices and how do you host all this data? So that is where platform makes more sense. And with platform, so now you have the data, and this is where the real power of IoT is, right? So how do you analyze the data that you get? So it could be through building models, analytical models on the data, and to get any insights out of it. So that's where your whole application part of it comes into, where you're actually building solutions for, like it could be from, I think a lot of focus is on the connected car. I think the IoT became more popular because of connected car and home automation and all this stuff, right? So that is actually, if you see it from an enterprise, so that is still very small. So the main angle could be more of the industries, right? How do you automate your whole industries, and what sort of insights you can get out of that? So that is where you start building applications and solutions for that, and then your whole industry is transformed, right? It could be from in an electronics domain or an insurance or in whole automotive or any of this, right? So that is where you see the whole IoT value is realized in these four fundamental areas. And if you see for any, and this digs into the whole platform angle to the whole IoT, where any platform where you have are actually divided into four main quadrants. So these are the four main quadrants where you have your connect, and then how do you manage all this data, that is your information management, and then the key part, that is your analytics. And there's a fourth angle to it, that is your risk management. So when I say risk management, it is all your security. Whenever you're talking about IoT, one of the key concerns with most of the people are, how do I secure, like basically now if your car is connected, right? No, there should not be another guy who can actually know with the data that your car is sending, he can actually track you down, right? So that is where the key part of IoT is, where how can you actually start securing all this data, right? So that is your whole key part of your whole IoT proposition. So that is all that you get from your risk management. So these are the four main quadrants whenever you see for an IoT platform. So when you see it as a whole, right, so whenever you come as a IoT platform, so these are the main things that you have. So you have your devices and sensors connected to your platform, and then you have your applications that consume this data. Plus, if you see on the bottom, right, so that is your another key part. So where not only you marry the data from your the devices that you get, but also how do you augment the data with other sources, like it could be a weather data, or it could be a map data, or it could be even with other IoT platforms, like it could be a SIM provider, right? So how do you augment all those data with the data that is coming from your from your devices, and then build interesting applications on top of that? So that is how your whole IoT platform will look like. So what else do you get from a platform, right? So like it could be from an IBM standpoint, like what all do you get unique from the platform that you have? So first and foremost, like as I said, right, the whole power behind IoT should be your whole analytics that you can do with it, right? Like what sort of analytics that you can drive from the data you're getting from devices. So you should, so like from an IBM perspective, I think most of you would have heard of IBM Watson. So that is your whole cognitive engine. So you get the whole power of IoT cognitive into this. Plus you have deep industry, so we have, there's a deep industrial models that are already built, the deep knowledge on these models that you can actually use. And then, as I said, right, as with any platform, so you should be able to even augment data from other data sources. So it could be from weather or it could be from anything else. And also, how do you integrate with different industries? And plus, you get your whole set of the low latency services. So that is part of the platform that you get. But it should also be, how do you make it device neutral? Like you don't consume data from a particular type of device. It should be, it should be also neutral regardless of the net. So where you get, this is how your whole IoT platform should look like. So basically when I say, essentially when I say connect, right? So when I say, and so how do you make sure you connect? So this is where you, so basically you have your devices that are communicating over a network to your platform. So another key point that you see here is there's a protocol. So there are different protocols that people use. So this is a protocol called MQTT. So that is for a low throughput, low latency and high throughput. So wherever you want to have, look, basically HTTP is more for a document related transport and this is more for a mission to mission level transport, right? So that is where your whole MQTT makes more sense. So you have all your devices that are communicating to the platform using MQTT, and then you have your APIs that your applications can consume. So the applications are your analytics applications, or it could be even a simple visualization as well, right? So that where you are actually just showing the temperature of this room to a open dashboard. So all of that becomes your application. So this is how you see your whole connect. And then if you move on, so this is the main part as I was talking about before, right? So of course you get the data from your devices. It could be like millions of devices, or it could be pent up bytes amount of data, you're getting it to the platform. And then the main part comes is how do you analyze all this data and get some insights out of it, right? So that you say like it could be like a device, like a motor, you get all this data, but with all those real-time data that is coming in, how can you analyze it in real time? Or it could be, you can do a predictive analysis to see what if this machine can fail in the future, right? So that are the different things that you can do with analytics. So if you see here, when you see for an analytics in IoT, there are three main angles to it. So one is your real-time analytics, and then you have your cognitive analytics and your predictive analytics. So real-time analytics is, I think, pretty much simple. So as and when your data, you get in your data, how do you analyze that in real time and give some output to it? So this is more like maybe if you're actually monitoring a temperature of a motor, right? So basically it should not cross some thresholds. So you have like 1,000 motors in different in your company where in different locations, and you're all monitoring at the same time, and based on those values that you get, you have to act on that in real time. So that is where your real-time analytics comes into picture. Plus you have your whole cognitive angle to it, right? So where you have your machine learning algorithms that can actually do to create insights about all the data that you get. So if you see the amount of data, right, it actually goes to petabytes and zettabytes. So that is, people have not even can comprehend the data that is coming in, right? So you're getting all this data, so how do you gain insights to it? So that is where you have your whole cognitive angle to it. Plus you have your predictive analytics, right? So the predictive analytics is what more of, so based on the historical data that you get in, how well can you predict that what can happen in the future, right? So most commonly used case is your predictive maintenance. So basically, based on your historical values that you get of a particular device, how can you predict that this might actually fail or can have some issues in the future? And this is a very key thing in most of your industries, right? Where because any downtime of industry does cost money, right? So where you can, if you're able to predict that this particular machine based on this pattern can fail in the future, so that is your whole, you can actually put in your money into that, right? So basically you know when it can actually fail so that you can take preventive measures for it. So that is where your whole predictive maintenance comes in, predictive analytics comes into picture. And this is the fourth part where you actually have the information management, right? So as I said, right, so you get petabytes and zettabytes of data. So you should have a very proper mechanism of how do you store all this data, right? So that is where your whole information management comes into picture. Look, from the devices, when you're getting into the platform, like how do you manage to do all this? So that is where your whole information management comes into picture. And of course, what this slide actually tells is, of course, this is not a one man's thing, right? So should always, so this cannot be solved or cannot be done by just a single person out. This is where you have a lot of people partnering with you and to drive the whole thing. So you get the IoT value is basically you have a lot of people who are coming together and start working together. So that's where your whole partnership comes into picture. And another thing, so this is actually to end with, right? So basically whenever you see a value chain for Internet of Things, right? So this is how you should go. So basically from the silicon, so when you say a silicon is your end device, with that, so how do you get it connected using IoT devices with gateways onto your network and then push it to the cloud where you actually can host all this data and then can do any further analysis on it. So with that, so I just thought that maybe I can quickly do a sample of what can actually, so one of the, I just wanted to take, use an example of what can you actually do with this, right? So I took an example of, so most of you already know about connected cars, right? So I think there's a lot of buzz about automated cars that are coming with the Google trying out automated cars. So now, actually, if you see in a lot of places, I just want to, this is the video that I just wanted to play. Let me just open that up. Yeah, so basically this, what you see here is your whole driver behavior profile. So when you have your connected car, so where you're getting all this data from your cars, right? So now the next thing that you actually are able to see is with your car insurance companies, right? So what they are actually doing is with the data that you're actually getting it from your car to how to profile the driver as it is. So basically what you see here is, so this is by all the experience of IBM, like we actually built all those models. We have built your, so basically you can actually see your, you can define your behavior. So you can actually pump in the data from your car and can define behavior like, so basically what are the speed limits. And then when you actually give in the actual car data, right? So basically your GPS data with your parameters like speed and other things, you can actually profile each driver of how he is driving. So in the future, I think it might most probably, like all the car insurance companies are coming in to say that you have to put particular device that can take all this data from your car, and then he'll profile you based on how you're driving. So basically how well you're driving, your insurance premium will be based on that, right? And this is already happening in a lot of companies in the US, where they're saying that based on how you drive, your insurance premium will be depend on that, right? So basically if you're a rash driver, you pay, of course, more premium, versus like if you're a more disciplined driver, like why do you end up paying more premium, right? So what you do is, so this is actually this is a API that your IBM the Watson platform gives you. So you just, all you have to do is you just pump in the data to it, and it will profile based on all the data that you've done to give you a, so actually I'm just giving it a very basic, it's a REST API that you can just invoke and it will give you. So if you see here, it will actually tell you what, okay, what is the time that you actually have, and what are the different thing, what time of day you are actually driving. And if you see on the bottom, right, so these are the various things you have. So basically at this particular point of time, you did a lot of harsh braking, or at this particular time, you were actually speeding. So these are the real insights that it actually got from the patterns of the data that you actually sent it to this. So all, but if you want to build all of this, it will take months together, right, to build all the analytic models to actually analyze all of this. So this is where you have your whole power of the IBM Watson, right, where you can actually do all of this. All you have to do is you just pump in your data and make a REST API call, and it will profile your entire driver and give it back to you. So to conclude, what I just want to say is, like, of course, you get all this IoT data, but the real power is in the analytics like this, like where you actually can, you are able to profile the data of how your particular driver is driving, right? So the main power is in your analytics. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.